The Adventures of Batman with Robin, Boy Wonder. Batman and Robin, dynamic duo against crime and corruption, whose real identities as millionaire philanthropist Bruce Wayne and his young ward Dick Grayson are known only to Alfred, the faithful butler. Ever alert, they respond swiftly to a signal from the police, and moments later, from the secret Batcave deep beneath Wayne Manor, they roar out to protect life, limb, and property as Batman and Robin, Cape crime fighters. Batman and Robin, scourge of Gotham City's kooky criminals. The Joker, clown prince of crime. The Penguin, pudgy purveyor of perfidy. And the cool, cruel Mr. Freeze. Watch out, villains. Here come Batman and Robin.
Welcome back, citizens, to an all-new episode of the Batcave podcast. It's your old bat chum, John S. Drew here, and guess what? This is a big one here for us. We've been talking about the Filmation, cartoon series, the 68 cartoon series now for these last bunch of episodes, and let me bring him in right now, the man who's been helping me through this all, and we laughed about that the last time, helping me through it all.
I was going to say, I like the way you put that.
Yeah. Mr. Dan Greenfield from 13thdimension.com. Hey, Dan.
Hey, John.
This is a big one, and I got to admit, as I was going through it and writing my notes, I was pausing more and more often because it was like, I've got to get the stream of consciousness out, and it's probably, one of the most detailed notes-taking I've done for one of these cartoon episodes since we started.
The funny thing about this, and as we've said, when I thought back on these cartoons, when I first got them, when I downloaded them a couple of years ago, and when I've been rewatching them for this, is that I don't remember the details of most of the shows. The vast majority of these shows, I only really remember having watched the show. I remembered certain episodes of certain scenes, but to that point, this episode, I'm not sure I've ever seen it before, and it's great.
Yeah, it really is.
It has everything.
It has everything. It's got a really good story. And I've got to say, some of the animation, there's just certain shots that I just stop and go, wow.
Yes, this almost felt like it was a truncated direct-to-video movie if they'd made those back then. And I think part of it is because we should tell people what episode we're talking about.
Yeah, now this is the first part of our two-story coverage here, the two-parter, Partners in Peril. It aired, according to most data we found, but we know we're taking all this with a grain of salt, October 26, 1968, so around Halloween, which is also appropriate in some ways for this, written by George Cashton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he, old DC hand. I mean, he wrote comics. He was an editor. And I do think that in some cases, the ones that are written by comic book writers tend to be a little bit stronger.
Yeah, I would agree.
Gotham Square, where city officials are gathered to honor Gotham's two most famous citizens. Batman and Robin are due any moment now, Mr. Mayor.
Fine, Commissioner, fine.
Dad, look up there.
Great day, toy umbrellas.
It's the Penguin.
We open this with our unnamed mayor. It's just the mayor of Gotham City. We don't think it's... oh, God, I'm blanking on his name now.
Mayor Linseed.
Mayor Linseed, yeah. As the city's about to honor the dynamic duo with a pair of statues.
Yes, which is like... I'm opening this, and when it opens up, and I'm just laughing because that is such a Silver Age thing to do, and obviously something that would have been done on Batman 66 because we always like to bring it back to that. But this is a classic setup because now this whole idea, Batman, shadowy vigilante of the night, which is of course his original idea, but back then he was Mr. Sunny Cop in a cape. And sure, he was Mr. Civic Pride, and sure, they would have statues to Batman and Robin in the park. I love that.
Yeah.
It's a classic opening.
Classic opening, and I'll tell you, I thought it was very satisfying because then the two show up. There's this cool Batapult scene with, and I love the whole, even though they're still, and it's just the background going by of the two of them flying through the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. But they managed to, get a hold of Penguin, but he manages to get away thanks to Joker in his, and here's another vehicle for you, Dan, the Joker plane.
I know. Well, even the Penguins, the way that umbrella works. Like I've complained before about how I don't like the open umbrella thing that he flies in because it's not at all aerodynamic. As if that's the thing I should get hung up on. But it looks really cool here because it seems to be. It fits the scenario because it's dropping down and it's picking something up. But then, yes, you get this. I love the Filmation spaceship designs because they're so clunky. I mean, they're all, there actually was one in one of the Green Lantern episodes that was basically an upside down Enterprise. Something like a 12-year-old would come up with. But this is like downright weird. This big smile in the sky with the weird wings. I love it. And I think we need to get somebody to produce a series of Filmation Batman 68 vehicles.
Well, I've noticed in the, these next bunch of episodes we're doing, we've got the Bat plane.
Oh, yeah.
Not the Bat plane, but the Joker plane. We see a Riddler car. And I don't know whose sled it's going to be, whether it's Riddler's or Catwoman's, but there's a sled, a rocket-powered sled.
Right,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I also get the sense. Well, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So, to go back to the recap, yeah, of course, we got the Joker plane. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it also manages to knock Batman and Robin out of Penguin's umbrella. So as they fall, they activate, and I like this because it is a little different. They called it the Bat-a-chute, like a parachute. They didn't say bat-chute. They said bat-a-chute.
Bat-a-chutes. Yeah. Yeah, it was one of those things. Though, again, it's a where we had the previous episode where they would call it their bat scuba gear and their Bat-a-chutes. And not to be pedantic, but instead of them being just like white parachutes, didn't you want some kind of design on them, like a big bat on them, or at least the Union Jack like James Bond?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
Just some things we can't get, I guess. Maybe all the money was spent on the plane.
Right. Very good.
But all in all, I sat up and took attention with this opening, paid attention, and I was like, wow, this is going to be fun. And it gets even better, as Ted Knight tells us.
In a deserted carnival, the dread duo becomes a terrible trio.
Remember the rules of our contest, Riddler?
Sure, the one who pulls off the most daring crime will take over Gotham City's crime empire.
Right. You muffed your chance, bird brain. Now let's see who gets the next crack at it.
I want that. I want that wheel in my house, like a wooden carnival spinning wheel that.
Your turn, puzzle puss.
Just watch me go.
I don't know if you caught this, but when he spins the wheel, the animation is great.
Yeah,
it actually looks like it's spinning.
Yes.
I don't know. I do this since I interviewed one of the directors of Batman the Animated Series recently, and I asked him because I'm like an idiot when it comes to animation. I really don't understand how it works. To me, it's still magic. That this, I don't. How do they get that to work? How do they make everything fit? I don't get it. I love it though. And when I saw that, I thought, how did they get that effect? What did they do? Because you would think they just would have drawn the swirling motion or something, but you actually see the heads move. I was like, I could watch that all day. Now, here's the thing. The fact that they, of course, since one person was pretty much doing all of the voices, as far as the villains were concerned, Ted Knight, they didn't have to worry about getting three actors together. They didn't have to worry about finding, other than the movie, of course, most famously, and we'll get to that too, is you don't have to track down actors to get them all on a guest star episode. You can just keep drawing at so long as you can draw them and write them into the episode, you're great. In fact, so many of these episodes are villain team-ups that it actually, in a way, I wondered how they were able to resist putting them all together more often, because it seems like such a thing that you would want to do as much as possible.
Yeah, I agree. I recently got a... besides there was a novelization done of the Batman 66 movie.
Yes, I have it.
And I think it was 2. I could be wrong. There was like 1 or 2 other novels then that were written set in 66 universe.
Yeah, there was one other one that went with it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. They were by Winston Groom, which was, I think, a pen name for somebody else or like 2 other people.
Well, that novelization, I just got that recently. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But it has similar ideas as well as this cartoon where the gangsters are all, the crooks are all teaming up and trying to outdo each other for control of the city.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's in a sense, that's what criminal territory fights are all about. I mean, that is the idea of that, but the idea of it being a contest just makes it what even. I mean, I haven't read that book that I have a couple of because I got them at like flea markets, but I've never bothered to actually read them. Maybe I should. But it's just the idea that they actually have a contest that cracks me up. That this is how they're going to settle things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like I said, Riddler's up next. He leaves a riddle at police headquarters there. What is found beneath the ground? It rhymes with malt and salt. And I love this. It's like Barbara goes off. She's like, I don't have time for this. I got to get back to work.
Yes, I love it. It's like, Batman and Robin can't figure it out. And Gordon, I guess, is on the speakerphone. And he says, Barbara, what do you make of it? And rather than say, sure, Dad, I'll help you solve the crime. No, it's, I don't have time for your games, Dad. And I got to go to work.
And of course, it's just this whole excuse because then she goes and tries to work it out at the library. But it's like, why couldn't you just help them there? You know, it's funny. We've talked about this from time to time when we were doing the 66 series, the 3rd season, of how sometimes Batgirl could be a great help. And then other times she sort of was going out of her way to do it all on her own to prove she could.
Right.
And it's like you could save so much time if you just chimed in.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but that was very much of the time. I mean, the idea of a female crime fighter to be taken seriously, remember, and that was the subtext of a lot of the Batgirl episodes, was that she actually was the smartest one in the room. And she was the one who was one step ahead of everybody.
Right.
And that at one of her, there was the consistent idea that she was constantly being underestimated. And that's in this, that bleeds into these Filmation episodes too. And it's very much a part of things in this episode. That the idea, sometimes they show Batgirl to be completely competent. And, other times, like in this one, she seems to be either a step behind or struggling, or they seem to show her following along. It's a little weird, but I think that that's also just very much part of what they were writing about. Oh, well, if we have a female crime fighter, we got to make sure that we make these points. Not that anybody was sitting there doing that necessarily overtly. I don't think they were having meetings about that, but that's what, middle-aged guys would write about. Women crime fighters in the late 60s. That's just the way it was.
Right. Yeah. But eventually Robin does solve it. He figures it out that it's a vault beneath Gotham Lab.
Right. Right.
And Riddler is already there getting himself set up to raid the place. But first he's got to get these duplicates of himself all over the place. And I love this scene. I mean, they shoot at them or what have you, and they blow up and it's all filled with gas, knocking out the guards. And there's this one great still of Riddler laughing and the shadowing on his face.
He looks like a blue meanie, doesn't he?
Yeah.
In the red, I'm watching. I'm like, this is like something. This is. I felt like it was as if they were watching Yellow Submarine, and then they went and drew the Riddler, and they said, "Hey, let's use this as one of our still images." I also, have you ever noticed how with the cops and the guards and whatever in Gotham City, how trigger happy they are?
Oh yeah.
How often they discharge their weapons without being fired at?
Oh yeah, they're quick too. Well, in this cartoon, you mean, not in the 66 series?
No, not in this. No, I'm talking about the cartoon.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Strictly the cartoon.
Which is so weird because, we talked about this all the way at the beginning about the reluctance to always show the punch. Instead, we get the fist coming at you and then the explosion of color of the hit. But, oh boy, we'll show the guns going off.
Even now with cartoons, rarely do you see an actual pistol. It's usually, it may be something that looks like a pistol, but it'll shoot lasers or shoot something else. Back then, even right in the opening of the Filmation Superman cartoons, there is a picture of a revolver firing a gun right in the opening.
Yeah.
Faster than a speeding bullet.
Gosh. So Barbara, though, does figure it out and decides to join the dynamic duo. They've arrived at the lab.
There's a fortune in plutonium stored here. Don't overlook a single drop.
Didn't you overlook something, Riddler?
The caped crime fighters. Riddle them with your fist.
Honey, man!
Puny joke, Robin.
Look out!
One batarang coming up.
Batman, the Riddler's gone!
He couldn't have gotten very far.
There he is!
He's as good as caught.
Riddler manages to get away
My eyes!
Where'd that come from?
thanks to the high beam from her Batgirl cycle.
I'm sorry, Batman. I was only trying to help.
And you did! You helped the Riddler escape!
Easy, Robin. It was an accident. I'm more concerned about this crime partnership.
Right, and this is what I'm saying. I mean, this is like, and sometimes they had Batgirl right on, and here it's like, wait, that's not our Batgirl. Please, don't do that.
Yep. We get also, and again, like you said, this thing's got everything. We even get a home shot with Bruce and Dick trying to work it all out and Alfred chiming in.
The big question is, why have our three arch enemies joined forces?
Perhaps, sir, they mean to throw you off guard so they can perpetrate a massive caper.
Alfred's got a point, Bruce.
No, I think they're up to something much bigger than robbery.
I think every character that they could put as far as the main cast. Have we seen O'Hara yet? Yeah, we saw O'Hara, I think, didn't we? O'Hara's been in this? I think
No, O'Hara, that's the only thing. O'Hara hasn't been, and I don't remember. I have to look at the rest. I don't think he's in it at all.
Huh.
Yeah.
Trying to think. Well, anyway. Yeah, I actually thought this was kind of a weird scene. It was like, why are they back in their suits and ties sitting in the living room? Why aren't they in the Batcave? You know what? That was just, I thought, weird. But again, I always did like the kind of the transformation aspect of the whole Bruce Wayne. You know, it just is a reminder that they've got this double life, even if it doesn't make much sense in this context.
Right, exactly, yeah. I mean, I certainly could see that if this were the 66 TV show, they would not waste time,
right.
You know, setting up. It's like, we'll just do another Batcave, because,
right.
You know, we probably didn't have too many house scenes to begin with, maybe at the very beginning. But what we'll do is we've already got these Batcave scenes blocked out. We'll include that in there as well.
Right, yeah.
Alfred and Dick think it's a simple crime, but Bruce thinks it's much more. Right. And then we learn that Joker has robbed an armored car. Literally taken the whole car with a giant magnet that he's got.
Yes, of course he does. Outstanding.
Yeah. No, that's actually pretty cool. And the duo managed to catch up with the Joker mobile that's dragging along this heavy armored car that's slowing him down, but they are hurled off the road when Joker triggers the bridge to go up.
Holy flipovers! How do we get out of this one?
Farewell, cold crusaders! Is this really farewell? Has the Joker finally had the last laugh on the cowled crime fighters? Don't miss the thrill-packed conclusion coming up next.
It's Speedline! It's Aurora! Drag set! Stunt set! 2-in-1 set! 2 cars! 2-lane track! Race cars! Stunt cars! Power! Finger power! Speedline cars! Speedline track! Speedline Super Looper! Look at the box! Extra cars under $1 each. Aurora!
Bedtime and brush your teeth.
I don't like those toothpaste you get. Let's play riddles.
Just one. What's red, white, and new?
What?
New Colgate toothpaste.
Go Brush. Colgate. The flavor is fresher than ever. It's new. It's improved. Even more important is all the clinical research on anti-cavity Colgate. In test after test, the results confirm Colgate unsurpassed in reducing new cavities when compared to the best-known fluoride. Get anti-cavity Colgate.
the dynamic duo, in hot pursuit of three arch-villains who've stolen an armored car full of money, are taken by surprise when a drawbridge, triggered by the Joker, springs open suddenly, flinging the Batmobile high into the air.
Farewell, cold crusaders!
Activate hover jets.
On. They're back on the road. We're finished. I'll release the armored car. Maybe we can lose them.
But what's this? Another complication?
Attention, Joker.
Who's that?
This is a friend. Take next right turn and...
Look, a secret entrance. Where could they have vanished to?
Did you notice something else, again, talking about the animation and stuff? Their dashboard looks a little bit like the 66 Batmobile.
Yeah. Yeah, and we see it again later, but it does. It's got that kind of chrome with those gradients that I don't know how else to describe it. But yes, it looked like it was drawn from that. Yeah. I don't know whether it was the source material. They obviously didn't have pause on their TVs, and the artist couldn't exactly look over, look back, look over, look back. But they showed it enough times that probably was factoring into it.
Yeah, yeah. And we learned that their benefactor is Catwoman.
And this is when it just, the whole episode goes to a whole new level here.
Yeah.
Because now you have, and this is why I was saying, I cannot remember if I even, and here's the funny thing, and I thought I'd watched them all recently in the last few years. I don't remember, because I could not remember an episode where they actually had all four big villains in it. And maybe there's another one, and maybe there isn't. I don't know. Again, as we go along here, I'll remember a lot more. But as I watched this, I was like, holy crap, we've got Batman, Robin, Batgirl, the four main villains. We also had a scene with Bruce, Dick, and Alfred, Commissioner Gordon. And the story, and it doesn't feel padded, and it doesn't feel weighted down. It's just a good story being told.
It's a good story being told. The only thing is that suddenly the competition is tossed out. And they all agree to follow and I'm fine with that. I'm not going to give it too much thought as to what that, but it is a little odd.
Filmation logic, John.
Yeah, filmation logic. Yeah. Because
that's an ongoing complaint I have about the series anyway, is that they do take storytelling, they cut storytelling corners all the time.
Right.
And I think part of it is because, and part of the problem with watching these even now as rewatching them, as much as it's fun and nostalgic, is that you do see that they were writing down. They were writing down to kids. And what makes modern adventure cartoons so much, more entertaining and they're much higher quality, not just in terms of the animation itself, is the writing.
Yeah.
You watch shows like Batman the Animated Series or Justice League Unlimited or Teen Titans or, on the Marvel side of things, Earth's Mightiest Heroes and Spectacular Spider-Man. These are all ages cartoons. Of course, nobody thought in the concept of all ages cartoons back in 1968, but you really do see that come up when we're dealing with some of that storytelling logic.
Right, yeah. So she's got this plan, which tosses out their whole contest.
Paralyze the police department? Brilliant idea, my felonious feline. But how do we accomplish that feat?
Destroy mobility, eliminate communications, capture weapons, but you must strike swiftly.
She's got all the bases covered, although there is one base, and we'll get to it, I got a question, but the first one she sends out is Penguin to cut off the police switchboard, and he succeeds with the use of his umbrella gun with the electricity coming out of it.
No, he's flashing the cops. That's the best part. He walks in with his overcoat. What is this? Those weird things. I was like, why are they even bothering with this? Why the charade? It's funny.
It's funny. It's a little odd. You're thinking in terms of budget and animation there. It's now we got to create this new, instead of just having maybe the stock stills.
You don't have to do this. Yeah. I guess the idea is who are you, sir? I'm the guy who looks exactly like the Penguin in an overcoat. That's who I am.
Oh, yeah. The monocle, the hat, none of that sort of...
The nose, the height, I'm 5 feet tall. Top hat. Anyway, yeah.
So he takes out the switchboard, but he is quickly caught by the trio as they arrive. And the funny little bits in that whole catching there is how Robin calls him a nasty little man.
Yeah, and Batgirl gets him by grabbing his tails.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's silly and funny and yet I'm like, okay, I'm in.
Sure, why not? It's fun.
They next get a call from Riddler, but he's got his voice disguised, so they think it's actually a police call that sends almost the entire full force, or maybe it's the full force, I don't know, but they converge on this one area where then Riddler drops down wall after wall after wall on the street.
That is awesome.
I know, right?
That is so great. I mean, that is a Riddler. That's something right out of the Bill Finger playbook.
Yes.
That is just great. I mean, I'm like, that is, and again, it's one of those things he couldn't do on the TV series. I mean, they could have tried anything, but I think that this was one that's too big a set piece to try to find a way to fake that out.
Right.
That was great. I love the idea of it. I love the execution of it. I love the animation. The whole thing. A great sequence.
Yeah. But I will admit, I also like the way Batman gets them all out of it.
Yes. And yeah, the whole thing. I mean, first off, do you follow, there's a Twitter feed called Bat Labels?
Yes.
Do you follow it?
Yep.
I love that. And for your listeners who don't know, if you're on Twitter, follow an account called Bat Labels, and it's run by this guy who the name is in the Twitter handle. All he does is occasionally tweet out an image from the show, the Batman 66, with whatever label a device is. So if it's like spectrometer, he will write spectrometer and then he'll show it, or bat this, and that's exactly what I thought of when I saw where they reached to the Bat Dozer, and of course I'm thinking Bat Dozer, but the Bat Dozer, and it's got the sign that says Bat Dozer, and they pull it down, and then again I get all excited because then it's like a really neat tricked out filmation vehicle. The big blue bat on the hood of the car comes down and becomes a battering ram, and they just plow through all the walls. It is awesome. I love it.
I loved it too, but I had to wonder then, it was like there was that part of me was that, why just not use the bat ram?
Because I like the Bat Dozer better. Because I like the big blue thing. I love the big blue thing flipping up off the, I love how any of the things that are decorative also have a functional value. So you have this big bat, the big blue bat, the light blue bat, and it comes up and you see the machinery behind it, and damn, boom, bam, it hits the ground. Off they go. I love it. It's awesome.
And the whole...
And besides, when he's Batman, he can have both the Bat Dozer and the Bat Ram.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And the whole commotion of knocking down these walls and such also shakes the nearby building that Riddler's on top of. He falls into... All right, and explain this one. Where did the sidecar come from on Batgirl's cycle?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It came from stock imagery is where it came from.
Yeah. But he's captured, so now we've got two of them. Now we come to Joker, who's doing his part on this whole thing. He's attacking the large signed area known as the police arsenal.
Yes. Again, this was also something that would be on Bat Labels. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. But I did like, and again, I thought of you as soon as I saw it, the little Joker toy moving towards the guards.
Yeah, the way it's all gawky walking around and everything. It's awesome. I love it.
That could be a Funko toy with the big head and all and the smaller body.
Yeah, I mean, it's a GIF waiting to happen. He's just, kind of bobbling along in his arms. He's all distorted looking and everything. It's great.
Yeah. But the duo arrive.
Now let's load up on those beautiful weapons.
Mind if we join you, Joker?
Here's your net result. Ow! Shoot them down!
Without guns?
Here, fellas! Have some more guns!
As Joker's running, there's a brief scene of him running. His suit looks a little faded.
Please, Joker, don't go away mad.
You female!
There are a lot of wonky elements with the animation in this particular one. There's also one where they keep going back into the image of the three of them sitting in the Joker-mobile. which it's funny that they all have to sit in the front seat. I guess maybe it's only a 3-seater. But you see them in silhouette, one after the other. And the Joker has a regular complexion as opposed to having his white face. And they keep going back to it. So they just kept using the same stock image over and over again. But it was one of those classic Filmation screw-ups.
Yeah.
That's correct. I was tipped off to every one of those crimes. Which one of you creeps ratted? The Riddler. Me? Why, you...
Hold it. How could any of you squeal on all three?
Right. It had to be someone else. Catwoman.
Right.
So Batman and Robin try to sneak into her lair once they find out about it via their Batplane, but they are quickly caught. Now, the episode moves very rapidly at this point.
Yeah.
But again, in another Bill Finger-esque moment, they're suspended over a mechanical dog.
No, it's a lion.
Is it a lion?
Yeah, because it's Catwoman.
Oh, okay. I just thought for some reason it was a dog with the sharp.
No, it's a lion.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a lion, yeah. And again, I had that same reaction. I thought Bill Finger, but I also thought that why would you go through such trouble to build a gigantic lion to chew up Batman and Robin? And again, one of those things I said to myself, but if that's what you're hung up on right now, Dan, then you're in the wrong place. But at the same time, it's like, why that? Yeah, I mean, because it's Catwoman and it's a big cat. But it does seem to be a little excessive.
Yeah. But once free, they get away, by the way, by using their bat torches. Got a lot of bat gadgets in this episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But once free, they quickly round up Catwoman. As again, I said, the ending moves really fast. Once you start going, it's like we just go way down to the bottom. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it's a fun, quick slide down.
We'd better get out of here.
She's getting away.
Wanna bet?
Congratulations, masked manhunters. Once again, you have averted catastrophe.
Thank you, sir, but I think Batgirl deserves some credit. Don't you, Robin?
Well, I suppose so.
I often wonder who Batgirl really is.
And we get this ending at headquarters where Batman wants to give Batgirl credit for her part in all this. And it's interesting. There's Robin being very reluctant.
Well, that's because he was pissed off that she had blinded them back earlier in the episode. Yeah. So again, it is that weird, because usually they got along great. But this idea that Robin was somehow looking askance at Batgirl, I thought was strange. But hey, look, the episode on the whole has I like that Catwoman is the mastermind of the whole thing. That she draws them in, she sells them out. This Catwoman is much more ruthless than the '66 Catwoman. Even I always thought that in retrospect, that the most ruthless of the three Catwomen on the TV show and in the movie was actually Lee Meriwether. The way she hisses at Batman, near the climax when they're chasing her through the United World building, and she says, "One more step, Batman, or Kitka dies." And she's like spitting it out. And then later, when he knocks the mask off her at the end of the movie on the submarine, she gives him this glare. And the fact that she set him up all the way along and yanked his chain, I mean, but this Catwoman is even more so. Every time they show her to be tougher than the others, smarter than the others, and more ruthless than the others. And we'll get to a point. There's another one in another episode we'll talk about that kind of gets into that a little bit more too.
I got to agree with you. And overall, I've got to say, this is probably one of my more favorite episodes in the series.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. Without a doubt. No, just because it does feel like it's got everything. And again, that's why I wonders why the writers resisted putting the four of them together more often. But it's also I can imagine it would get tiring trying to make all the pieces fit. And you don't need to have them all together. But that's what also did make this feel special. I mean, some of the villain team-ups we've seen here are just because we know that they want to have multiple villains, but they don't really necessarily work. This really works. I mean, even if you put aside the whole idea of a contest to take over the city, the capers are interesting. The interplay between the villains is interesting. The whole Catwoman angle is interesting, and you've got everybody in it, and it's definitely one of the best episodes.
Yeah, no, I agree. Which then brings us to another team up that I'm not as fond of. It has elements I do like, but I am not as fond of this one. It's called the Underworld Underground Caper. It's a 1-part story written by Bill Butler.
Yeah, I'm not as well. Tell me why you sound hesitant. Why you don't think this one holds up?
Well, this one doesn't hold up because I feel that, first of all, I have a real problem with Riddler and Catwoman teaming up alone, and a lot of it has to do with the animation, their look. Because I realized in watching, especially when they're in their lair together and they're on the chaise lounge chairs or whatever they are lying there and stuff and talking to each other, I'm like, they have the exact shade of green costume.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I'm watching this and I realize that this is going to be a Riddler and Catwoman team up and just a Riddler Catwoman team up. I'm thinking to myself, this is an interesting pairing because it's not one that you ever see. You saw Penguin, and I'm looking at this even in the bigger picture, because on the TV show you had the Joker and the Penguin, and in the comics you had the Joker and the Penguin, and they always had some rivalry or partnership going on. Of course, on the TV show in the 3rd season you had the Joker and Catwoman, okay, and of course Catwoman and Penguin, which they shared, Lee Meriwether and Burgess Meredith shared a lot of scenes in the movie. Plus, of course, the 92 Batman Returns. So you kind of make those connections of, bird and a cat and all that kind of stuff. But Catwoman and Riddler is just, it's not a natural pairing. It doesn't really make much sense. Even Joker and Riddler makes sense, jokes and riddles. But I do think that it works just because it's such an offbeat episode and it's unexpected. And I also like that weird, it's almost like they're like romantic partners because it's on one of those, to describe it for listeners who haven't seen it, it's one of those kind of couches where one head goes one way and then the other head goes the other way, but they're connected.
Right.
So they're both lying down. They're on this connected. It's like you would see it like in Victorian parlors and stuff. And I was actually expecting one of them to get the vapors. And but the fact that they were the same color, I noticed that, but it kind of didn't bother me, other than it just reminded me of the fact that I never understood why Catwoman would be green at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there are things I did like, and I will point them out here, including the fact that, we mentioned, you were asking about O'Hara. O'Hara is in this quite a fair amount. In fact, we don't see Gordon at all.
No.
Which is interesting.
Yeah. No idea why.
No idea why, right down to O'Hara being shown in his own office.
Yeah, he's got his own. Yeah, was President Lincoln over his desk, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
It also looks like it's in the basement, doesn't it? It looked like unlike Gordon's office, which of course on the TV on the 66 show, it was like this more not regal, but it was a bureaucrat's office, but it was a lot of oak and mahogany, and it looked very very much of the commissioner's office. The commissioner's office on Filmation is really funky. It's almost like a bachelor pad. It's got the gigantic, floor-to-ceiling window behind his desk. He's got the funky furniture. I like that. It's really, it's almost like the Mad Men set designers came in and did his office for him. But on the other hand, O'Hara's just basically got a file cabinet and a desk and a picture of President Lincoln over his desk. Like he's just like some hack cop in the basement.
Well, it does, but then and it's so brief. It's a cut to O'Hara's point of view looking at Batman and Robin, and they've got that stereotypical pose of the two of them as if they were leaning on Gordon's desk with Robin and such, but instead it's O'Hara's desk. Right. But behind them, I swear to God, that looks like the Bat computer.
Probably is.
I mean,
it probably
God, it's like the wrong background.
Yeah, maybe. Could be. It wouldn't. I didn't catch it, but it doesn't surprise me. It's Filmation, man.
Yeah.
It's long after closing hours at the Gotham City Bank.
Instead of robbing the bank, the crooks left this sack of silver dollars inside. Check, Commissioner. It's another burglary, Batman. The Gotham City Jewelry Mart. Chance alive.
Let's go, Robin.
same thing. The jewels were left behind, this time with a riddle. And the riddle leads them then to an art museum where they corner Riddler. And again, here's another one of those shots I love. I don't know why. The drawing isn't that great, but the shading is fantastic of Riddler as he's caught in, like, the light. Yeah,
it's really cool. I know exactly the shot that you're, like, where he throws his hands up.
Yep.
Yeah, he's caught with he's caught, there's like a brick wall behind him. And yeah, they had these flashes on the show of brilliance.
Right.
3 shots of brilliance. Maybe not even, like you say, and sometimes I think it's an accident. They capture the imagery just right, because that's actually like a real old school Batman comic book image. And it's not necessarily the most artfully drawn, but it does work. I like it. I noticed that too as I was watching.
Right. Now, just as they're about to round up Riddler and his men, though, Catwoman steps out, and she's got, like, I don't know what you'd call it. It's a gas gun that creates a slippery, like, slick, so that the two lose their footing, and Catwoman, Riddler, and the men are able to get away.
Right.
And Riddler also admits that, to his men, that he left a homing device behind in the art gallery, and we learn later on that he did the same thing in the other locations as well.
Right.
Yeah. He also leaves what seems to Batman more of a challenge than a riddle.
Right.
And another riddle. If you're still blind as a bat the next time around, the Riddler and his girl will be the richest in town.
That's no riddle, that's a challenge. The next time around can only mean he's going to rob the same 3 places they visited tonight.
Let's go find him.
So Batman and Robin take all the loot that was left behind, bring it back to the Batcave and analyze it. They find absolutely nothing. So Batman's like, we're going to have to, just stake out the areas because clearly Riddler's up to something there. So they stake out the bank first, and they use the Batcopter to do that. And because of it, they never see Riddler tunneling in some odd. Now, this is odd. The animation of him holding the tunneler and, like, basically being dragged by it.
Yeah, exactly. It just I noticed this too because they doubled down on it later.
Yes,
but it's true. And again, it's the physics of animation where what they're doing is absolutely physically impossible.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about flying. Flying is physically impossible too, but Superman flies. I get that. But you have this, like, machine. He would have been crushed and suffocated 10 feet in, but because this is the way things are, he just tunnels right through with this device.
Yeah. Again, this is one of these episodes, though, like, and we've talked about this, the economy of writing, moving things along. Right. So Riddler tells Catwoman he left behind riddles that will lure them to their next location. Batman and Robin manage to get there ahead of time, so they find the gear, they find the sled waiting for the escape, and then they hear Catwoman and Riddler arriving. So when they try to apprehend him, and in fact, I don't know if you caught it, we also get a Robin scene with a yellow R.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot of flipping of logos in both of these episodes we talked about. A lot of Batman, the back and forth colors on his logo too.
Yeah. The two jump on their sled, take off, but the duo follow them on rocket-powered, I guess you'd call them boogie boards?
They look like skateboards.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, where did those come from?
Right, exactly. Not even, come on, Robin, take out your bat board or something.
Right. It's just the next thing we see, they're on rocket-powered skateboards. I'm like, Batman does have everything.
Yeah. He's definitely got everything. I mean,
Caught like rats in a trap, Batman.
Bat lungs, quickly! Now the underwater bat torch. Hurry!
They then wind up in getting trapped in a flooded area of the sewers there, but they're able to get out thanks to the torch. Then they get caught in the steel web.
My, what a catch!
What's that, Batman? A cat or a sewer rat?
Talk big, little bird, but that steel web is hooked up to a 10,000-volt power line. The switch is just down the tunnel. In those wet clothes, you two will go fast.
Play it cool, chum. I can slip my hand out of my bat glove and maybe get an acid capsule from my belt. You locate the lead-in from that power line, and hurry.
I know you boys will get a charge out of this.
Yeah, which is really weird.
Yeah.
And the way he gets out of it by just pulling his hand out of his glove. I'm like, well, what's holding him to the web? It's not magnetic. I guess they're stuck on it, I guess. But whatever.
But my question is this: why didn't he ever think of this before? All the times, like when he was stuck on the glue pad in the Green Hornet episode.
Right. Yes. Because he hadn't.
Yeah. So he manages to get his hand out of the glove. He gets this corrosive acid that cuts them out of the steel web.
But she's going to isn't it electrified web, isn't it?
She's going to use she's going to electrify the web, and as she points out, because they were already in the flooded tunnel area there, they're good and wet, so it'll be quick.
This is what I'm saying about Catwoman. I mean, she's ruthless. She's going to electrocute them. Can we stop and consider that for a moment? that Catwoman, who through any other version of her, except with a couple of rare exceptions, 77 years of Catwoman, she was never a killer, and she is just. I'm not only just going to kill them, I'm going to fry them.
Yeah, not even Riddler's thinking in those terms. He just wants to get away.
He's like, I want my money and I want to get out of here. What are you doing? She's like, I'm going to kill them.
Well, I guess maybe they're playing that up also, too, to just try and distance herself from Julie Newmar. I
don't know if that's it, or again, I mean, I don't want to try to psychoanalyze a cartoon that was done 50 years ago. But, it also may simply have been writers who didn't understand how to. First off, they did not want to sexualize her. That's huge. That's number one right there. But the other side of it is that maybe they just felt that they had to overcompensate. That they had to overcompensate and make her quote unquote menacing enough, and they just had to up the ante with her, or even that that in their mind, or whoever the writers' minds are, is that. It's the bitch factor, is that they had to really make her harsh. They had to make her nasty. And I know that some of your readers are going to roll their eyes, and our listeners are going to roll their eyes. I get that. But remember, these things were done in the late 60s. And writers do write from the zeitgeist and whatever's in the political air at the time. So the way women are portrayed, whether it was, and if this was actually a big part of the TV show, the 66 show, still does carry over into this, and it carried over into the comics at the time. If you see the way the Wasp was portrayed a lot of the time, in the Avengers cartoon, it was always, or the comic book, she was always like the girls, almost like she was a sidekick sometimes.
Yeah. Which is amazing how they've managed to sort of build on her, though, in recent years.
Which one?
The Wasp.
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but that was also by design.
Yeah.
It's also a different world.
Yeah.
Now I need never worry about them again.
There must be miles of this old sewer. How will we ever find them now?
Tune your belt radio to their frequency.
There's our next job. $1 billion in bullion, stored in the underground vault at the Trade Center.
Perfect.
The Riddler and the Catwoman bore up into the bullion vaults, but are they in for a big surprise?
So the dynamic duo followed the two to their next heist, managed to hide themselves under the sled, figure and what they do is they just hang on using like suction cups as the two head back to their hideout, so this way they're able to round up all the loot.
All right, you cats, unload and stack this.
That won't be necessary.
You can't be alive.
Reports of our deaths are very exaggerated.
Attack them.
Destroy them. Where's the fire, boys?
I'm getting out of here.
They're making a getaway, Batman.
And there's that doubling down scene.
It's all right, chum. They're going in the right direction.
Now they're both holding on. They're both being dragged through the ground, and it is. I love it. It's so much fun. And I also, speaking of not just this device, I also like the rocket sled too. It was kind of a weird thing to have, but it was another one of those Filmation vehicles.
Yeah, no, exactly. I like the rocket sled more than I like the tunneler, though. But I can tell you, though, as a kid, I would have thought that was cool.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So they try to escape by tunneling, and they manage to tunnel themselves because they're following the next signal into police headquarters.
Welcome home, crooks. Batman said I'd get a nice surprise if I'd plant that homing device right here in the jail.
All right, you got us. But you have to give back that sack full of silver dollars we left at the bank. That was our money, $1,000.
Oh, that reminds me. Here's a bill for the electricity you stole by tapping Gotham City's underground cables. By coincidence, you owe exactly $1,000.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course, but it couldn't just end there. You couldn't just say, "Oh, you're caught," and that's it. No.
Oh.
We've also got to point out that Riddler's own money that he was using to start up this whole operation, $1,000 in coins and such, gold coins, is just enough to pay the electric bill that they were siphoning for their hideout.
We have bat taunt, ladies and gentlemen. We have a bona fide bat taunt.
Yeah. A true wah-wah movement.
Yes, bat taunt. Little trademark next to that.
Yeah, there you go, bat taunt. It's okay. I just, and maybe it's just I'm underwhelmed after how cool the two-parter was.
Yeah, I could see that. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I was surprised again by how much I liked Riddler and Catwoman teaming up, because it's not, of the four of the different little connections you can make among that foursome, it's the least, it's the least natural.
Right.
But it worked. I liked it.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. I mean, it overall, though, it's been a pretty good, two stories to review and talk about here. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I mean, at this point in the season, I guess we're like 5 or 6.
This is 7.
Okay, so we're almost halfway through.
Yeah.
And they were. I think some of these middle episodes, they really were hitting their stride with what they were doing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Now, before we go, want to touch base on 13th Dimension? Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, 13thdimension.com, my website. And, we do Batman 66 stuff all the time. We do Batman all the time. We also do things that are not Batman all the time. But it's for people who listen, if you haven't checked us out, I really do invite you to do it, because I think that if you like this, if you're the kind of person who would listen to a Filmation Batman podcast, then you will find a lot of what you would like over at the website, because we do a lot of retro stuff and a lot of stuff that people like John and I grew up on. So 13thdimension.com, plus I'm also on Facebook at 13th Dimension. We're on Twitter, so follow us, give us your thoughts.
And that's 13th Dimension, 13thdimension.com.
Yep.
So next time here on the podcast, we've got another interesting duo of stories. First up, the Joker is running for mayor. Didn't we deal with this back in 66?
Yes.
And Mr. Freeze is using a Viking hoax to commit robberies. Does this excite you, Mr. Freeze?
We'll talk.
We'll talk. All right, so that's going to be next time on the podcast, folks. Stay tuned. More episodes of our Filmation reviews coming along, plus the summer of Batman 66, some special episodes we're going to be doing, including some here with Dan, talking about different aspects of Batman 66. And as we start to wrap up the Hornet Sting, our look at the Green Hornet television series. So until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening. Once again, Dan, everyone, take care.
Bye, John.
Thanks for listening, chums. I don't have a bat phone, but you can contact the Batcave podcast through its Facebook page, Twitter, email at thebatcavepodcast@gmail.com, subscribe to the podcast via libsyn.com, that's libsyn.com, or through iTunes. The Batcave Podcast is part of a series of pop culture podcasts from the Chronic Rift Network. Find them at chronicrift.com. So until next time, citizens, same bat time, same Batcave Podcast.